In today's show, the Blazers lose big in the new era of not trying to win. 3 new players make their debuts, and Chauncey Billups talks about coaching 3 different teams. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazer reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Blazers your first listen every day. It's free on all platforms 5 days a week, coming at you every single weekday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen every single day. In today's show, we're going to talk about the Blazers' loss to the Golden State Warriors. They come out after the All-Star break and they get beat down. Mission accomplished, some might say. Also, some Blazers made their debuts. Brandon Williams, Drew Eubanks, and Keon Johnson all appeared for the first time in Portland uniforms. And we'll close the show talking about Chauncey Billups' comments. He says he's coached 3 different teams this season with the Blazers. Let's talk about team number 3 and the transition that Billups is making with this new group and, quite frankly, with a new approach. But let's start, as we typically do, with the fastest recap in the West. Blazers lose 132-95. This game was pretty fun early. Blazers led by 10 points in that first quarter, 29-19. And you might have said, this team is tank-proof. And then the Warriors came roaring back. Blazers led 32-31 after one, and 10 points in the first quarter, and the Blazers looked like they were in good shape. But a monster second quarter in which the Golden State Warriors scored 39 points. They took a 70-57 lead into halftime and had 21 at the break. He was 6 of 10 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3, but Steph Curry had 18 and 10 at halftime, and the Warriors had a double-digit lead, and it only got bigger from there. Dominant third quarter from the Warriors put this one away. They were up 173 after 3. Fourth quarter was garbage time. Basically no starters played in this one, certainly no Golden State starters, and very few of the Portland regulars, as the end of the bench was in this one for the final 12 minutes, and Golden State cruises 132-95. That's your fastest recap in the West. And 21 points in the first half, just 3 in the second half, finished with 24. He was really good. The Blazers struggled in the third quarter. They only scored 16 points. And then the Warriors paid special attention to Ant. More on him in a moment. But the rest of your box score: Justice Winslow, 14 points. Josh Hart struggled, 0-5 from 3. He finished with 12 points. Off the bench, Brandon Williams, 12 in his Blazers debut. Trent Watford, 9. Greg Brown, 8, and a couple classic Greg Brown highlights. Eubanks, just 2 in his Trailblazers debut. CJ Ellaby, 5 in the start. It was not a great CJ Ellaby night, but it wasn't great for it wasn't great for anyone not named Anfernee Simons. So it happens. Warriors are really, really good. In fact, they had 8 players score in double figures, led by Steph Curry, who had 18 and 14 assists to go with 5 boards. Klay Thompson had 18 as well. 10 from Andrew Wiggins, 10 from Kevon Looney, 10 from Gary Payton Jr., 10 from Otto Porter off the bench, 17 from rookie Jonathan Kuminga, who took 12 free throws. A pretty physically dominant game from Jonathan Kuminga, and Jordan Poole added 15 off the bench and made a couple crazy transition threes, because that's what Jordan Poole do. Some thoughts on this game. Anfernee Simons was getting real respect from the Warriors twice in the first quarter, and again once in the second quarter. The Warriors deployed a box and one. So four players in a zone where you're at the elbows and down on the block, like a box zone. And then one guy shading, face guarding Anfernee Simons. Basically like, anybody else can try to beat us. It's not going to be Ants. And that one person was Gary Payton Jr., Gary Payton the second, GP2, the mitten, if you will. And he's, GP's not going to end up on any all defense teams, just because I don't think he's played enough minutes, but he's really one of the elite defenders in the league. Like he can guard anyone. And if they put him on you, that's a sign of respect. The box and one was just, it was shows how far Ant has come, that he is like top of the scouting report, tip top of the scouting report, to the point where you change your primaries, right? Like you literally change your scheme to deal with him. There is a difference in top of the scouting report to breaking the scouting report. My man Steve Jones Jr. has taught me to appreciate the difference between those two. And Ant is at that level where teams are changing the scouting report to take him away. So one thing the Blazers did, which I liked, was when they weren't seeing that box and one look, they stopped setting screens for him, because when they were setting screens for him, he was getting the double team, and then you have to move the ball to the double team. And when he's in there with Eubanks and Winslow and CJ Ellaby, who's 1 for 5 from three, is why I brought him up earlier, like, it's just not enough shooters. So you can just cheat off this three separate players you can cheat off. And Josh Hart had a bad game. Like, he did not, he was shooting 60% from three as a Blazer coming into the night, and was 0 for 5 from three. He struggled on offense for sure. So Ant, without real shooters around him, a real threat of shooters, Hart, he's a below average career shooter, below average on the year shooter. So while he's been really good as a shooter in Portland, I think, like, overall, you could call him a kind of a non-shooter. You don't want to set a screen for him, because you can double team, and then you can help off the double team, and you're just not worried about enough people. So the Blazers did something I really liked, was they stopped setting screens for Ant. They just let him go one-on-one. And quite frankly, Ant is good enough to beat pretty much any primary defender. If he sees two, it's going to be hard. If he sees a ton of help, it's going to be hard. But he can get certainly jumpers up. Like, he's really good at shooting off the dribble. Like, he can get jumpers up without the screen. I liked that. I liked Ant's confidence. A couple times he waved it off, and I saw Chauncey Billups do it once in the second half, where he's like, do not screen. Like, don't come up and help him, because don't invite the double team. It's going to be like that. This is what it's going to look like for Ant going forward. So, I liked that little adjustment. One other thing is that the Blazers lost this game by 37, but they were down, and they were down basically by that much. They were down 27 in Ant's minutes. They were outscored by 38 points with Ant on the bench in the first three quarters. The Antless minutes are going to be important. We will track those. And we're maybe tracking them in the other way now, right? Because this was, like I said at the top of the show, mission accomplished. The Blazers did what they set out to do, which is lose basketball games. That's where they're headed. They're trying to lose these games on purpose, get some developmental minutes, and sort of build for the future while making sure you rack up losses along the way. So maybe we'll start tracking. This is the one where I'm going to start tracking, is Antless minutes. How bad do the Blazers lose the minutes without Ant? In the first three quarters, they almost lost the minutes without Ant by 40. That's a lot. That is, it was bad news bears. It was troublesome, I'd say. They were a little, the second quarter was, the game just got away from them. Ant and Josh Hart basically played all of their minutes next to each other in the first half. And when those two sat to end the first and open the second, that's when the game got away from the Blazers, and they just didn't get back. A couple other notes from this game is that pregame, I saw Eric Bledsoe get shots up. That doesn't mean anything. He's not going to play. He's being held out of practice. He's inactive on game nights. He doesn't wear a jersey, but I hadn't seen him do that. And if nothing else, I noted it. I was like, oh, I haven't seen Eric Bledsoe get a pregame workout in. When I was at the arena today, he got a pregame workout in. I'm not sure if that happens. I'm not on the road, and I did not check with people who are on the road. So he may have done that in the Blazers prior to road games. But since Bledsoe has been here and he's in home games, I have not seen him do that. So meaningless, but a note that I saw from inside the arena. The other thing from inside the arena is that Didi Louzada was in the building. That is the player the Blazers traded for from the New Orleans Pelicans, who's out with a meniscus tear in his left knee. Very unlikely to play for the Blazers this season because of the knee, because he's still recovering from the knee injury. He's got surgery the first week of February. The timeline was reportedly 6 to 8 weeks. That's, the first week of April. Is he going to come back and play in the final 3 games of the regular season? I don't think so. So probably not going to see him, but Didi had not been in the building. I had not seen him, and he was there. So two sort of notable, these are not meaningful things, but things I saw from inside the arena. I'm trying to bring you a little bit closer to the action. Those are things I saw a little bit closer to the action. Speaking of the action, 3 Trailblazers made their debut in Thursday night's game. Let's talk about what we saw from Drew Eubanks, who got the start, from Keon Johnson and Brandon Williams, who played first quarter minutes, real rotation minutes. Let's talk about the 3 new Blazers, what we saw from them and what we hope to see moving forward. That's what we'll do in the second segment. But first, I want to tell you about Truebill. It is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions that you don't want, you don't need, or you simply forgot about. Look, corporations make it hard for you to cancel your subscriptions. They're trying to pocket your money. So you can download Truebill and take control of your subscriptions to the tune of about $720 a year on average. That's what your fellow Truebill users save on average when they sign up. Listen, Truebill is trying to make it incredibly simple because they know that companies make it hard for you to cancel subscriptions. All you do is link your accounts. Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your Truebill concierge is there when you need them to cancel your unwanted subscriptions so you don't have to. You're paying for a service. If it's not one tap, literally in the app, super simple, you can pay someone to go ahead and get it done for you. So it's no taps. You just ask for the help and they'll do it for you. I've used Truebill in less than 10 minutes, or about 10 minutes total, less than 15 minutes. I downloaded the app, linked all my accounts, had an eyeball on all my digital subscriptions. Super easy, saves, super quick to use, and can help you save money. So don't fall for those subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/lockedonnba. Go right now. Truebill.com/lockedonnba. It could save you thousands a year. Truebill.com/locked on NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by rockauto.com, the family business that's been specializing in helping do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, 2 decades of experience helping you save time and save money when you're working on your car. And I'm talking real money, 30, 50, or even 100% more than if you go to a chain auto parts store or if you go to the dealership. Those places can't save you money, and they can't save because it's not what they're up to. And they can't save you time because they cannot stock all of the items you want. They have physical space. Guess what? RockAuto.com doesn't have that. They got an easy to use website so you can find whatever you need for whatever make and model you got. So why don't you go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck. And while you're there, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. That way they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right. Let's talk about some debuts. The Blazers lost to the Golden State Warriors. The plan is to lose, and in the era without Yusuf Nurkic, lose they did. The Warriors are really good. Like, they're really good. There's not too much to read into this one. Anfernee Simons is good enough to keep the Blazers in a bunch of games. I had a conversation with someone pregame, who basically we were talking about, like, how many games do you think the Blazers are going to win their final 23? And they were like, some, because Ant is just so darn good. This is someone outside, a media member. We'll call them a reporter for ESPN.com. Ant is just so darn good. I think if the Warriors are a championship level team, the Blazers are going to play lower level teams, and he's going to be fine. But part of helping him be fine is the newcomers. The Blazers started a newcomer, Troutdale's own. Drew Eubanks got the start at center, and Drew Eubanks in 21 minutes went 1 for 2 from the field, had 5 rebounds, 2 points, and 2 fouls. His lone bucket came on a tip dunk. Drew Eubanks he looked like he didn't know the plan, and Chauncey Billups basically admitted afterwards he didn't really know the plan. Like, he just hasn't had enough time around the team to know what they're going to run. Billups said, like, every time down the floor, he's like, hey, do I go right here? Do I go left? And like, do you want me to come now or do I wait? Like, just getting the timing down and the rhythm. And they're going to have some time off before their next game on Sunday. They're going to have time off before they begin a road trip after that. Like, they're going to get on the practice court and kind of have a chance to get these guys ready. This one was a real trial by fire. And I thought Drew Eubanks looked a little, he looked out of sorts. You saw the hustle stuff, like he drew a foul on a box out. That is kind of what he brings. He's strong, he's bouncy, he's a good athlete, and he plays hard. Good screen setter. He had a screen where he set a screen in the corner, and it literally took him and Steph Curry out with the screen. Like, dude can lay the wood if he needs to. He had an offensive rebound where he grabbed it in the paint and kind of he missed CJ Elleby on the backside, had a pass and just wasn't there for him, and they ended up committing an offensive foul because he didn't make a decision quick enough. And then his lone bucket was like, just he chased down a tip dunk. I kind of think Eubanks' ceiling is a backup center. He's asked to be the starting center. You kind of see where he's a little bit out of his depth, but I think as he gets his feet under him, he can be a little more comfortable. But he's not going to he's not going to morph into something more than that. I actually developed a nickname for him. I coined this pregame, talking with Aaron Ventures of the Oregonian. He is the Shaq of Troutdale. Speaking of Troutdale, shout out to listener Juve Flair. That is at Juve Flair on Twitter, a Troutdale graduate. JUV, and the E is alphanumeric. It's a 3. Juve Flair, at Juve Flair. Shout out to the Reynolds Raiders. I promised, if you are a Troutdale grad and you want me to shout you out, as long as Drew Eubanks is on the roster, send me a note, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. I'll shout you out. Let's go Raiders. That's Portland's own, East County's own. But still, shout out, or maybe I think Troutdale's actually Multnomah County. Shout out to Multnomah County's own Drew Eubanks, the pride of Reynolds High School. Go Raiders. He was fine. He has limitations. You saw the limitations. The Warriors didn't guard him at the 3-point line. He didn't look, he had, caught it at the 3-point line, didn't look to shoot. But once he caught it at 17 feet and didn't look to shoot, he's got to consider the rim. He has to, that's like the next step for him. Consider the rim. Even if he only scores inside 2 feet, consider the rim at 17. Scare people into making them guard you, because it opens up passes, it opens up dribble handoffs, it changes the geometry of the floor. You got to consider the rim. Two other guys made their debut. Brandon Williams and Keon Johnson both got first quarter minutes for the Blazers in this one. Keon Johnson is the rookie that came over from the Clippers in the Norman Powell and Robert Covington trade. And in Keon's debut, 17 minutes, he finished with 4 points. He was 1 of 4 from the floor, missed his only 3-pointer, made both his free throws, finished with 4 boards, a really nice block in the fourth quarter where he slapped a layup attempt off the glass, and finished with 2 turnovers. Also, Brandon Williams, he made his debut. Brandon Williams on a 10-day contract. He's a rookie out of Arizona. He didn't make his debut. I'm lumping him in with the debuts. He signed a 10-day contract with the Blazers back in December and played 2 games right after Christmas, I believe the 27th and the 29th of December. So not really a debut, but a debut playing real minutes, like a debut as part of the rotation, not playing garbage time during the really bizarre COVID month in the NBA. That was not particularly fun for anyone, but a good opportunity for someone like Brandon Williams. But in his first sort of real trial run for the Blazers, Williams finished with 12 points, 2 boards. He played 20 minutes, 4 of 9 from the floor, 1 of 3 from 3. Made his first 3, which is pretty fun early in the first quarter. Made all of his free throws. Let's take those guys one at a time, because I don't think lumping them together is unfair. Keon Johnson, straight up, the first time he was in there, did not know the play. They come down, call the offense, had to look at the bench, and they told him where to stand, in the middle of the play. Talk about being new. I watched it play out right in front of me. But he has some real athleticism, some real deal athleticism. Like his first bucket as a Blazer was in the third quarter was a scooping right-handed, or sort of like a scooping right-handed lay. He's has some real athleticism, and he took that sort of coast to coast to do it. It was in a part of the game that was basically already decided, but the athleticism and the fluidity, also he had 2 plays in the fourth quarter where he had Nemanja Bjelica on him, and he took belly to the rack. He said, "What you going to do?" And he, showed a little off the dribble game. He doesn't have super tight handle, but with a switch, with a big on him, he uses athleticism to get to the rim. Scored one and missed the other. He missed them both and drew a foul on one and missed the other. But he's got a little bit of, showed his little off dribble juice. It's in garbage time. I think my real takeaway from Keon is that he's athletic, and if he could ever put it together, he has physical tools to be an NBA player, but he's super young. He's a teenager figuring it out. And this was his, 17 minutes in his first game hasn't played in a long time for a new team. This is not exactly a real judge of what he is, but if he ever can link some of his skills together, if he can kind of sharpen up some of those skills, he has the physical tools to be a player. I'm excited to watch him through the rest of the season, because in the sort of Greg Brown mold, as he sort of figures out more how to play the NBA basketball, he already has this leg up where he's just a really good athlete. He absolutely is. I thought Brandon Williams was, he's got some offense. He can score. He's small. he's small. Like he's 6 feet tall. And I think on defense a couple times, particularly in that first half stint, it showed up like he was needed to be in help position or he needs to like get in the passing lanes, and he's not big, but that is going to be his challenge. Typically diminutive guards in the league, where they get you is on the other end. And I think he showed a little bit of his offense. Like he's not a lights out shooter by any means, but his jumper doesn't look gross. And he showed ability to get into a couple mid-range jumpers that I liked. Like he had a layup in the third quarter that was just a nice move off the bounce. He hit a little runner in the fourth quarter with contact off the glass and one. He hit a little baseline midi there in the fourth quarter. Like he has some offense. I don't know that he's like a long-term NBA player. Like I always say with kind of end of the bench guys, there are so many dudes with like sort of that skill level. But I think you kind of see what he can do. And the Blazers need a backup point guard. They need another person to play those minutes. They could give it to Josh Hart, but if they're not going to, these are fine developmental minutes. See what you got with a 22-year-old and figure it out. I think he's got some quicks and some athleticism to him. Certainly not at the level of Keon Johnson, but both of those guys, like if they've got some physical skills that allow them to, if their other skills, if they're like true basketball skills catch up, they can be players. I have no doubt about it. What level of players remains to be seen, but I think they both have enough stuff. They both showed enough stuff in game one that there's 22 games left in the season. I want to see them play in all 22, and I want to see what they got. Speaking of dudes playing all 22 games, Chauncey Billups talked before the game about how he felt like he's coached 3 different teams this season and spoke a little bit about how he'll approach this final stretch of the season. I want to talk about Billups's pregame comments, and that's what we'll do to close the show. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar that there is. That's true. Like I have sampled many a protein bar. I've gone out of my way to find them. And I just cannot find a more delicious protein bar that's packing the punch that a Built Bar does. 17 grams of protein, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and just 4 net carbs. Couple that with delicious flavors like peanut butter brownie and cookies and cream, and you've got a fan favorite in this house. I spend my own money on Built Bars. Like at one point, I didn't have to do that because Built Bar was giving us samples. I said, these need to be part of my regular routine, and now I go out of my way to make sure I have them. And I think you should probably do the same. So head over to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Gresham Family Law. When you are faced with a big decision that could affect your family and your future, remember that you don't have to face it alone. Gresham Family Law has your back. From helping you prepare for a successful marriage, to protecting your home, to preserving your legacy and ensuring that your last wishes are honored with respect, Gresham Family Law is proud to provide holistic family law representation and counsel in the areas of family law, including divorce, custody, probate of wills, estate planning, and bankruptcy. Call Gresham Family Law right now at 503-465-9900 to set up an in-person consultation at their location at 1217 Northeast Burnside Road in Gresham. Or you can do a socially distanced consultation via Zoom or over the telephone. And for some cases and some clients, home visits are available. Visit GreshamFamilyLaw.com for more information. Still a pass first point guard, still Mike Richmond, still listening to Locked On Blazers. We talked about Blazers lost to the Dubs. We talked about the Shaq of Troutdale. Shout out to Juve Flair and the Shaq of Troutdale. Go Raiders. The Blazers made some debuts, and it was a challenge for Chauncey Billups because he feels like he's coached 3 different rosters this year. And quite frankly, my man is right. He has. There was the opening night roster, when this team had high expectations of being a team that could challenge for home court advantage in the Western Conference, could take steps forward after a 6th place finish last year, and could make some noise this season. Then Damian Lillard got hurt, and it was the post-Dame injury team, right? There was this stretch of, well, Dame's not here, but Norm and CJ and Ant, and we'll see what happens. And now there's roster number 3, where it's post-trade deadline and a whole new crew. Tonight against the Warriors, one player who played on opening night appeared in this game, and that's Anfernee Simons. 0 starters from opening night. They've come a long way. And that is a challenge. And I asked Chauncey Billups kind of how he has approached getting new guys integrated into the system. And he's had to do it a lot. Like this is with Justice Winslow and with Josh Hart, and now with Eubanks and Williams and Johnson, and even at the beginning of the year with getting a whole new roster that was brand new to him, kind of up to speed. And I asked, how do you go about doing that specifically with mid-season acquisitions? Not like, how did you do it in the fall? Because folks, that's well behind us. But how do you do it with in-season within season acquisitions? And Billups says that he does it two ways. One, he always calls the coach that they just played for, whether that's the head coach or one of the assistants. He didn't really specify, but he calls for former coaches, guys who have coached these players in the past. What do they bring? What's Justice Winslow like? What's he going to do? Call Willie Green. Hey, Willie, what is Josh Hart going to bring to the table? What's this dude like? What's his temperament? How does he like to score? What's he going to bring on the other ends? Like he calls coaches, figures out what it is. That seems like the right move. And then he also said he watched a little bit of film. He mentioned for Brandon Williams specifically, like he watches some of his G League games to kind of get an idea what he might be like. But then he admitted that most of the getting to know you process doesn't happen on the practice court because NBA teams can't practice that much. And even if they have time for back end of the rotation guys to practice that much, there are so few times when you can play like live fives on practice because injuries or you guys just need to get off their feet. Like there is so few practice days in the modern NBA. It is not how the league works. Rest and taking care of your body are just so important. We just know more about the human body. We know that a long 3-hour physical practice amidst 82 games is like bad news bears. So the way the league works, you just don't have a lot of live practice time. So a lot of it is just like throw Drew Eubanks out on the court, tell him, hey, on this one, set the screen on the left side and let him figure it out. And then you learn his tendencies there. One of the reasons I was curious about this with Billups was that Terry Stotts, almost forgot his name there, when they would get new players, Stotts' big thing was that he would not watch film because he did not want to get preconceived notions of what they bring. And what he wanted to do specifically was watch them play and figure it out from there, because he felt like watching film or, watching quick highlights or whatever to see what they do, it could say, you might say this is what they were asked to do at the previous stop, so that's what they're capable of doing. What he wanted to do, and the famous example is kind of he saw Mason Plumlee grab the ball off the rim, go behind his back in practice and like run the fast break. And he said, "Oh, I didn't know he could do that. I guess he's going to do that now." And that was something that Mace absolutely did not do in Brooklyn. Stott saw it in the practice court and said, cool, that's part of the plan. So I was curious if Billups's approach was similar, and it's not identical because he's watching film and he's making calls, but the sort of bulk of it is similar. This is how coaches learn, is just go ahead and play and we'll figure it out from there. And I think that's kind of going to be what this is for the remainder of the season. Billups also mentioned that he's just going to try new stuff. He can't say that the Blazers are trying to lose or that the Blazers don't care and they're playing for a draft pick. Like, don't care about wins is maybe more accurate. Not trying to lose, but like, don't care about wins is probably a more accurate way to describe what they're doing. Like they want to lose, but they're not actively throwing games. It's just they've limited the roster's talent level. So losing games has become a lot easier. But Billups said he's going to try new stuff. Like, he's going to be experimental with rotations. He's maybe not going to have as many set rotations like he would have in the past, and kind of just, hey, let's see what this works. Let's try different combos. Let's try different things. Let's try different looks. Like, he's going to be more experimental in the final. This was before the night, but the final 22 games now. Good. Like, that's good. Let's see a bunch of different stuff. Let's throw it. If you don't need to win, and if it'd be better if you lose, try a bunch of different things, because you need to figure out what's a keeper from here, February 24th to October 1st, right? Like, when camp opens up, you want to figure out what you have. Obviously, you're going to have new parts. It's such a long journey from here to there, but like, some of that is just figuring out what can these guys do, who helps where, who fits well together, what works, what doesn't work, both groupings and all those things. I want to see Billups experiment. One other thing. I've said a bunch on this podcast that players don't tank, organizations do. And I've kind of been in the gray a little bit about like, well, coaches sometimes do. Here's an example of a coach tanking. In the second quarter, with 2 minutes and 51 seconds remaining, Keon Johnson checked into the game. He checked in the game with the backcourt of Brandon Williams. So it was Keon and Brandon Williams in your backcourt. In the front court, the forwards along with them, or the front court players along with them, were Ben McLemore, Greg Brown III, and Trendon Watford. So that is a rookie second round pick, an undrafted player who was on a two-way contract who was converted, a minimum salary guy who was not part of the rotation when this team was fully healthy, a 10-day player, or excuse me, a two-way player in Brandon Williams, and a recently acquired rookie who barely played any minutes at his prior stop in Keon Johnson with the Clippers. That's a tank lineup. I've said this a whole bunch of times. If you're a long time listener to the podcast, you've heard me say this. The thing that a coach does on game day is decide who plays and when. If you put that group out there, that is an example of the coach tanking. The more generous read on it is like, those are developmental minutes. They sure are. And if you are asking for developmental minutes at this stage in NBA season, you're asking for a loss. The fact that it came after the Blazers were up 1 after the end of the first, or they were winning when that group came in, and then they were losing by the time that group left, kind of tells you what you need to know. If the Blazers want to be competitive, one of Anfernee Simons or Josh Hart has to be on the court at all times. They did more of that in the third quarter. They staggered their substitutions, so they were on the court more. So I'll pay attention to that. I'll pay attention to the Antless minutes, and if Josh Hart is on the court in those minutes. If they go with the super young lineup, which I don't really have a problem with, but it is what it is. If Brandon Williams and Keon Johnson are your two guards, and your best offensive player is either Brandon Williams or Ben McLemore would be your best offensive player with that group. But if your best offensive player is Benny Mac, along with a couple rookies, and along with Ben McLemore and 4 rookies, is what it is. That is a group that is not going to be competitive on most nights. Frankly, any nights. They might be competitive, but they're not going to win many nights. This is sort of an example of what Billups is doing. I don't have a problem with it. Like, I'm not criticizing the move. I'm just calling it what it is. Like, that's not a winning lineup, but the priorities have changed. The priorities have absolutely changed. I have no beef with it. I'm merely pointing out that if Billups says he's going to be more experimental, and this is the third iteration of the roster, a roster that was supposed to be competitive, a roster that was falling apart and losing Dame, and now a roster that is totally developmental, play those developmental lineups. Find out what works. Throw a bunch of stuff at the wall. See what sticks. Figure out what you like, what you don't like. Figure out which players fit what you want to do. So that way, when you get to October, you have as much information as you could possibly need. Basketball's back, y'all. I'm glad to be talking about hoops again. Blazers play again. They play Sunday. They play the Denver Nuggets on Sunday, and then they head out on the road for a little while. So we'll have a podcast for you Sunday after that game. We'll have 4 more shows next week, five in total next week, including that recap of the Nuggets game. Going to be a ton of fun. I'm going to try to get Jason Quick on the show. He mentioned this today in a public space, so I'll share it here. Jason's going to go do some other stories around the NBA. He's not going to write about the Blazers a ton. He's got some stories in the hopper that I know about, but before Jason heads out to do some other things, we can get him on the show to share his thoughts on the Blazers. So make sure you check for that one. Jason episodes are always a ton of fun. And that's a senior writer for The Athletic, Jason Quick. Make sure you check for that one. We'll do a mailbag next week. We'll talk about the Blazers game against the Phoenix Suns. They play to start the road trip. We got a whole bunch of fun stuff planned. Jamie Hudson of Blazers Broadcasting is very likely to join the show. We have some scheduling stuff we're trying to work out, but that's a couple interviews, a mailbag, game recaps, all types of fun. It's 5 days a week, available where you ever get podcasts. So tell your friends to listen and come back for more. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.